Oh my goodness. It's been one thing after another. Technical difficulties. I'm working with a microphone today. I'm in my office again. The camera wasn't setting up correctly. All kinds of stuff. But we're going to get this, I promise you. So, Genesis chapter 8. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and livestock with him on the boat. He sent a wind to blow across the earth, and the floodwaters began to recede. The underground waters stopped flowing, and the torrential rains from the sky were stopped. So the floodwaters gradually receded from the earth. After 150 days, exactly 5 months from the time the flood began, the boat came to rest on the mountains of Ararat, and I believe that's how you pronounce it. 2.5 months later, as the waters continued to go down, the mountain peaks became visible. Right, and remember, so when the flood was going on, it was 22 feet above the highest peak. And now, what does it say, 2.5 months, we're able to see other mountains. That's a lot of water. After another 40 days, so another month, so like 3.5 months, Noah opened the window he had made in the boat and released a raven. The bird flew back and forth until the floodwaters on the earth had dried up. He also released a dove to see if the water had reached. He also released a dove to see if the water had receded and it could find dry ground. But the dove could find no place to land because the water still covered the ground. So it returned to the boat, and Noah held out his hand and drew the dove back inside. After waiting another 7 days, so another week, Noah released the dove again. This time the dove returned to him in the evening with a fresh olive leaf in its beak. Then Noah knew that the floodwaters were almost gone. He waited another 7 days and then released the dove again. This time it did not come back. So we're looking at 4 months. 4 months for all that water to go down. Quite a bit of time. Noah was now 601 years old. On the first day of the new year, 10.5 months after the flood began, the floodwaters had almost dried up from the earth. Noah lifted back the covering of the boat and saw that the surface of the ground was drying. 2.5 months went by, and at last the earth was dry. Then God said to Noah, "Leave the boat, all of you. You and your wife and your sons and their wives. Release all the animals, the bird, the livestock, and all the small animals that scurry along the ground, so they can be fruitful and multiply throughout the earth." So Noah and his wife and his sons and their wives left the boat, and all the large and small animals and birds came out of the boat pair by pair. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and there he sacrificed as burnt offerings the animals, the birds that had been approved for that purpose. And the Lord was pleased with the aroma of the sacrifice and said to himself, "I will never again curse the ground because of the human race, even though everything they think or imagine is bent toward evil from childhood. I will never again destroy all living things. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night." And that is the end of Genesis chapter 8. There's a couple things that I picked up in that kind of sounded very interesting to me. So one, how do I feel about it? Everybody was bad and sinful, and God was like, "Yep, we're going to flood the earth. We're going to kill everything." Right. Obviously just speaking as a human, but that's, hey, you have like 6 humans ish, 7, 8, I think. And all right, you 8. All right, you're going to restart a new world. This one that we had is no good, right? But it doesn't matter how I feel. The Lord is right. The Lord is just. He knows the future. He knows how everything's going to turn out. In the end, he wins. Just a heads up, spoiler alert, right? But he knows more than that. I see what I see as Chris, and that's it. I know what my life has been, but I have no idea what your life has been like. So he says, "I will never again," this is verse 21, said to himself, "I will never again curse the ground because of the human race, even though everything they think or imagine is bent toward evil from childhood," right? We were born into a world of sin, and we've already read that. But there's things that I think of throughout the day. Oh, they're not Christian. They're not good. I don't know if they were necessarily evil, but if it's not of God, you know what I mean? And so I, still think of God throughout the day, but I'm just saying as a human being, I'm not perfect, not even close. And so it says, as long as verse 22, as long as the earth remains. And I was like, oh, that's interesting too. Right. So I finished Revelation, I think about a month ago, a couple of weeks ago, somewhere around there. And, it's talking about a new Israel or a new earth or something like that. I cannot remember what the exact wording is on that. But new, right? And it says, as long as the earth remains. Okay, well, obviously, that may not be the case, right? And I think that's interesting. Again, don't quote me on any of this stuff. Do your homework, obviously. But I think that's, 4 months and there was dry ground. That's a lot of water. Where did all that water go? Couldn't tell you. I don't know. The way I look at it is there's only so much water in the world, but I don't know. Couldn't tell you those answers. So thanks again for sticking with me, and we're going to continue on to chapter 9 tomorrow. See you later.